Hi, welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. Today I'm going to be showing you how I attached the binding to my beetle bag. What you're seeing here is just my binding all done, and I will link a video up above in the cards or down below so that you can go back and refer to how I go about making my binding. You can see here I forgot to clip off the little tags at the end. So I'm just going back through, clipping them off before I go attaching my binding right to my beetle bag. Okay, here you can see what I'm doing. I've gotten up to the corner. I'm doing a zigzag stitch, and what I'm going to be using is my stiletto to help hold the fabric in place. So you can see I'm making a little pleat so that as I very slowly come up to the corner, I can then manipulate the fabric around it. And I'll tell you, that stiletto makes a huge difference. It really helped for me to get it around the corner. The other thing that I did was I sewed very slowly. You can see there were times that I did stop, pick the presser foot up in order to make it go around the corner. And here I just continue to go, sewing very slowly, and I am trying to make certain that I'm catching the very outer edge of my beetle bag. So here I'm coming up to a straight point. That goes much faster. I do still use my stiletto to kind of hold it all in place. We're going to make our binding into one fluid piece. Here's one side of my binding. You can see I point out that I've laid it perfectly straight. I'm going to line up the other edge of my binding right up to where my first piece on the left is. Once I've done that, I'm going to grab my ruler. Now my binding on this piece is 2.5 inches wide. So I'm going to measure from where I've butted the two pieces of binding together 2.5 inches to the right. So you can see me showing you the 2.5 inches. I'm lining it right up where I butted the two pieces together. And then what I'm going to do is draw a line. Once I draw that line, that is exactly where I'm going to be cutting my fabric. Now, I'm not making it any bigger or any smaller. If my binding had been 3 inches, I would have measured 3 inches from that point. So we'll cut that off. And that 2.5 inch piece of binding is going to go into my 2.5 inch strip drawer. So now you can see what I'm doing is I'm turning my binding piece around, and the next thing I'm going to do is draw a 45-degree line that starts at the upper left corner of this strip of binding and goes down to the lower right side. Now that's a great 45-degree angle, and I love my little 4.5 inch square ruler from Creative Grids to do this. Now comes the tough part, because we've got to manipulate these couple of pieces of fabric together. So there goes my binding clip. I'm actually going to grab it again in a few minutes. The next thing I'm going to do is turn my left side of my binding so that my right side of my fabric is up. See? I need to pleat this together so that it's easier. So here comes back the binding clip. I'm going to put those pieces tightly together so that I can manipulate them a little bit easier. I'm going to put my right sides together. You can see my 45-degree angle going down. Then I'm going to stick a pin in there just to double check and make sure that I drew that 45 the right way. I do not want to have to redo this. That's a pain. So here you can see I just put it right on the line, I pull it out, and I'm good to go. So I will now put 2 pins in there, making certain that I'm nice and lined up. Then I'm going to sew right on that line. Once I've sewn on that line, I need to trim off all of that extra fabric because it just isn't necessary. So now I'm just taking it off camera and going ahead and sewing it. Now you can see I've sewn my seam together. And now I'm just going to trim it. I actually just eyeball it. At this stage, it's pretty close to a 1/4 inch and that's how I do it. Just makes it nice and easy. There comes my binding clip off. Next thing I'll do is just flip it around and look at how nice that lays. Perfectly straight. You hardly see where it's put together. Off camera again to sew that down. So that's how you go about putting your binding onto your Beatle bag. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Margaret Lewin Quilting.